Hi, in the previous lesson, we learned the theory of CSS. What is it? How to connect it to HTML. Today, I will start by introducing CSS commands we'll use and then we'll build a simple HTML page to apply them. Step 1. Let's introduce the CSS commands we will use. The first command is color. This sets the text color. Background color. This changes the background color of an element. Font size. This adjusts the size of the text. So, font size, this adjusts the size of the text. So here, the paragraph font size 18 pixels will appear as text that is large 18 pixels on your screen. Font weight, this controls the thickness of text. P, font weight, bold. In here, the paragraph would appear as bold text, which we already saw how to do it inside of HTML, but here is another example of it to be made in CSS, and the text, the paragraph would appear as bold. Margin and padding. This controls the space outside margin and inside padding an element. Div margin 20 pixels, padding 15 pixels. So outside there will be 20 pixels free space, and in the inside, if it's a container or something else, there will be space 15 pixels. Variations. So we can have single value. This applies to all sides. It is true for them all. Margin and padding both have the same rules, so we'll introduce them the same. Then we have two values. First is the top and bottom spacing, and the second is the left and right spacing. Then we can use p-values. The first is for the top spacing, the second is for the left and right spacing, and the third is for the bottom spacing. Here we'll have 10 pixels from the top, 20 pixels from left and right, and 30 pixels from the bottom. And we can have four values for top, right, bottom, left. So we'll have 10 pixels at the top, 20 pixels at the right, bottom 30 pixels, and left 40 pixels. Or you can individually cite properties. You can target each element or each side differently or separately. So here we have margin top 10 pixels, margin right 20 pixels, margin bottom 15 pixels, and margin left 5 pixels. So with the first command margin top, we'll say that we want the spacing outside to be 10 pixels from the top. Then we can do it from the right. This also allows us to just set one separately without saying the other one, so in some cases it can be more useful. The same thing is for padding, and we can also use where you see pixels as a value unit. You can also use percentages, em or em. These percentages em or rem are sizable units which on your screen would appear the same as other people's screen, which could use different types of uh, pixels. It could be different inches or just different screen. And one pixel on my computer probably isn't the same pixel size as your computer. So it's preferable to use percentages em or rem. But for now, we'll probably use pixels and later on uh, use other types of units. Width and height. This sets the horizontal and vertical size of an element. They share the same syntax and support units like percentages, em, rem, v, w, and vh. So here we have a div with 300 pixels height, 200 pixels, so it will be from top to bottom 200 pixels each size, so height, and from left to right it will take 300 pixels of space, so it's width. Then font family. This sets the font style. When using or creating sites, it's preferable to use one font family at max. Or, I mean, you can use more, but it's preferable one font family. And font family actually, uh, not only does it set the font style, and it groups similar types of fonts. So, in this case, Arial, sans serif, but it can be others. In Visual Studio Code, when you're coding, you can see them very easily when you type the command. Text align. This aligns the text left, right, center. So if we write text align center for each one, the text will appear on the center of the text of the site page. Values, yeah, can be left, right, center, and etc. So if we imagine this like it has three columns. Left is the first column. If you visual, you can visualize it like that, and center is the middle, and right is the third column. So the center would appear in the second column, which is also centered on your screen, from left to right. Text transform. This can be useful to change the text to uppercase, lowercase, or capitalized if you use values or you just type small text and you want it to appear as uppercase text or from uppercase to lowercase. Its uses can be different. Its user cases can be different. Probably we'll use it more as to showcase things or values to print uh, in certain way. Line height, this controls the vertical spacing between lines. So in this case, paragraph line height 1.6. Border and border radius. This adds borders and rounded corners. With border, you set how big you want your border to be. If you want it to have a color, do you want it to be solid or dotted or something else? And it can follow a simple structure if you use just the border command, which is the sum of some small commands we do only one thing, and we will introduce them also in this lesson after some time. And here I will say that 2 pixels I want my border to be solid, so no dots, no anything, just a line, and it to be black. And border radius sets if you want rounded corners or not. If I say border radius 0 pixels, or any value that you want, or in any unit also, but here I'm gonna say 0 pixels or just 0, it will be just as a rectangle. Or if I say like 10 pixels, it will be slightly curved, so it will be with rounded corners. But again, 10 pixels on my computer are not the same as 10 pixels on your computer. So we will learn how to use resizable units. And both properties have variation. Border style. This can be solid, dashed, dotted, double groove. So this is the second thing that you write in the basic border command. Border width, thin, medium, thick, or exact values like 5 pixels. This is the first uh, thing you write on the normal border command, which is 2 pixels. Uh, Border color, any valid CSS color. It can be a name, hex, RGB, or any other type to describe a color. With hex, you just use hexadecimal system, and with RGB, you use values from 0 to 255, and like red, green, blue values from 0 to 255. Border radius can be a single value for all the corners or individual values for each corner. So we can have border radius 10 pixels, 20 pixels, 0, 0, which the same rules apply here from padding and margin. You can also style each side of the border separately using properties such as border top, border bottom, border left, and border right, which are the same as the margin and padding left, bottom, right, and etc. Now we've introduced some basic commands. Now let's visualize them and create a simple HTML file. First, let's here I am on Visual Studio Code, and here let's create a file. So let's say let's call it index.html. Now here I'm gonna write a simple boilerplate just to be easy, but you can type them if you use different text editor. You can just type them one by one. So we start with the top type HTML element, then HTML. Let's say the language is English, or we can just keep this and have any language we want, but this is just to tell the browser to understand more easily. Now let's write what we'll add in the head. Meta char set UTF-8. Let's add all the characters we want. This UTF-8, as I said, includes many characters, so we can write them very easily. And also there are many websites where you can see different values to write custom characters or just what characters you can add in a UTF-8. Now let's type the other meta tag. Let's write it else here viewport with device width initial scale 1.0. This will help resizing. And do we need a title for now? Yes, let's say Asia first CSS styled page. Now let's write the body. First, let's write h1. Here, let me turn off Copilot. So, okay, now let's write what we will add in the body. Let's first add simple text element h1 that we're gonna style because it's very easy to visualize when you're styling text. Let's call it title as the class. If you haven't watched the previous video, because you'll see why what's the difference between classes and IDs and get a better understanding from them. Now my first style page, let's call it. Now let's add paragraph and let's add a class which we'll call simple class to be more visible in the console now because some of you may confuse them because one uses dot, one uses a hashtag, and for beginners it can be very not understandable, very confusing. Who's that? And it can be very confusing for beginners. Uh, this paragraph is with the attribute class. Let's write this. Oops, didn't I forgot to close it. This paragraph is with the attribute class. And now let's copy this and this one, let's say it will be with an ID. When you're using IDs and classes, I recommend you to not name your class because it's not good. Let's here change the ID. It's not class, it's ID. But here I'm gonna show them with ID and class, which are named class and ID, to be easier to understand. As I said before, div, let's in here, let's give it a class. Most commonly, it's given the class or the ID that you're going to name the div. It is commonly given the name container. Yes, and let's write from the inside um, a simple paragraph that this text is inside the div. So, I mean, let's use this as a sentence. It's very easy. This text is inside a div. I recommend you to type as I am typing to do the same things I am doing, so it will be easier for you. So let's summarize what we have inside this HTML file because we're ready. This is just a simple example that we're going to do, and then I will challenge you with a simple yet fun task that you have to do on your own, and you're going to see the solution and the full task on GitHub. And if you don't know how to use GitHub, go to my video about version control and there you will learn it. Very easy. So the head contains the title and the CSS link, which, as I see, we haven't written it. Let's link it. Um, let's give it that its style sheet. Then have and let's say that it's with file.css. You can name your files any way you want. That will be true all around the course. It doesn't need to be named the same way I do it, but most commonly for beginners, these are names which you have to stick it with. Here I see that I have written index wrong, so let's do that. Name. Okay, so we have a head that contains the title and the CSS link, and some meta tags. A body that contains visible content, which are our texts here. And let's use classes and IDs to target these elements in CSS. Step 3. Creating the CSS file. CSS files can be named any way you want. I already said this, but I'm going to name my style.css. Let's do that. Style.css. And it's always important to double check if your connections are right. So style.css, it's named the same way. So in here will contain all the styles using the CSS commands we introduced earlier. Let's start with the body. What do we want to style the body? We always have to write those curly brackets. So let's say that we want the background color to be, you can make it any way you want, but I'm going to write 0f, 0f, 0f. Oops, the opposite actually. F0, F0. Oops. Now let's write color. Let's say hashtag 3333. So this is black. And let's say that our font family will be Arial sans serif. And here is Helvetic, which is also a similar script, a similar font. So if we run it, it will appear as my first style page, and this paragraph is with that class. So as we can see, the color of the background is a little bit different, so it's not that white because it's not that light, I think. And here are the fonts that it will use, the font family. Uh, Now let's write what we want the title class to be with color and anything. So now let's write color and dark blue. The named ones are the common ones, the basic known ones. You find colors as cyan, blue, red, which are already set values, and sometimes it's easier and more readable. So now let's write text align and let's align it in the center because we want our title to be in the center. Easy. Now text transform and let's say uppercase because we want our title to be with uppercase. But here the title is not with full uppercase, and here it will appear every single letter will be turned into uppercase. If I write lowercase, it will appear as lowercase. My first style project. Okay, so if we designed for our first element different from the body. Now let's continue with the dot class. Let's say font size. Let's say 18 pixels. Then let's say the line height will be 1.6. And here the text is bigger. Okay, now let's style the ID. Let's say that we want its color to be red. Font weight bold or bolder. And let's say let's add a text decoration. I don't think I said it, but it adds decoration to text like underline, dash, dot, double, line through, none. We can just like none, solid, underline, wavy. We can make the text wavy. But let's say underline and save it. It's important when working to always save your file, and we can just update it from here. And as we can see, the text is red, the font size is bold. We can if we compare the lower and upper version, and it's underlined. We added the text decoration. Now let's start the container. So we gave it a class, so we will use a dot. Okay, now let's say that its background color will be white. Um, its border will be 2 pixels, solid black. Let's add padding, 15 pixels, and margin 20 pixels. And finally, let's give it a border radius, and let's say 10 pixels. Let's see how it looks. So, the text went a little bit further. Padding. There is spacing inside. Margin. Mm. So, the, there is a there, here there is a gap. The container is a little bit left. Margin. With margin we pushed it left. There is a spacing between the end of the element and the text. Padding. Then we added a background color, white. Then we added a border, 2 pixels. So this is 2 pixels wide, solid. So the line, the border is not, it's solid, it's continued, it doesn't have any dots, any stops. And we said its color is black. Then we added the border radius, a curve. Here we can see on the four edges of this rectangle, because these are usually taken rectangle spaces. Here it's a little bit curved. Okay, so we saw how to style basic HTML page. Okay, so how do we test the page? Step 4. How do we test the page? As I said before, we save both the index.html and style CSS in the same folder, or we make sure the path linking them is correct. And then we open index.html in the web browser that we are using. I'm using Chrome. You can use Edge, Firefox, Opera. It doesn't matter. You can use Brave. So we now summarize how to test. Let's close it. So let's show it. Make sure they're safe. Control S. Control S. Then we go to the run and debug, or from the folder, we can just execute the file. Step 5, the practice task. Now it's your time to put your CSS skills into action. Create a restaurant menu page with the following requirements. A main heading style with a class, at least 3 menu items, each with a name, description, and price. Wrap the items inside a div that uses borders, padding, and margin. Apply different fonts, colors, background colors, and text transform. Remember to always save your files or give them any name you want. As here I said, save. Remember, save your files as index.html and style CSS, or name them any way you want. You can also see the file task.txt with the introduction. Check out the full task on GitHub here. https github.com Alex Dimitrov CSS Lesson 2. Let's summarize. In this practice lesson, we learned CSS commands, created an HTML file with head and body, and many things. We use class and ID selectors and styled the elements with colors, background color, text, formatting spaces, and borders. Now you try challenging the values and experimenting with the new property to see how they affect the design. So you can take the files we wrote in this lesson, or the the solution from the task I given you on GitHub. It's there. You can see my solution. You can see my type of doing it, but you can do it on your own. I encourage that. It is better to try doing it yourself. If you cannot, you can search from Google. There are many sources, or just see the solution, and here there you can understand or you watch the video, and you can play with the values that you wrote on your task that I've given you. Your solution, you can change the values there. You can change the values from the thing that from the files we got in this course, or from my solution to see how they affect and change the design. If you enjoyed the video, please hit like, subscribe, share, follow on Instagram, and watch the next video if it's already out. See ya, bye!